Welcome back, my dearest viewer, to the creative Hoderland that I exist in these days. I wanted to chat about my mid-March towards the start of April projects that ended up sadly putting me into a creative block, so to say. So let's just get right into it. So the projects I was trying to tackle were from my doom pile. If you don't know what a doom pile is, it is the pile up of things that you would like to get to. I originally had this top for years and I ended up just storing it away because I knew I wanted to have it cropped. And at least enough to where I could tuck it into skirts or into trousers if I decided to. And once I actually cropped it, I thought I was doing everything well. It's a little bit of a stretch fabric, so I did a double stitch at the bottom. I don't have the dual needle that you would usually use for like knit and stretch fabrics, but at that point it came out really good. I used a larger seam width so that it could still stretch if needed. But what ended up happening is I didn't pull the back down enough when laying it flat to measure the distance in cutting, if that makes sense. So usually you would have it laying flat and measure where you want to have it trimmed and then leaving a seam allowance to be able to roll the hem. What ended up happening is one side is actually longer than the other. I believe it is this right side. So it almost gives like a little pointed effect. Was not the goal. And I'm a little OCD when it comes to getting one hand wet. I have to get the other one. So my body just being able to feel that it's slightly longer on one side is a little annoying, but it's finally warmer weather, so I'm hoping to finally get some use out of this and just work through my OCD-ness of getting over the fact that it's longer on one other side. We'll see. That doesn't really overpower the thought of having to redo it, so I guess I could live with it, if you know what I'm saying here. So I'm really proud of this one. I hope to style it in some upcoming Instagram videos. So just keep an eye out. The next top that I decided to alter for myself was also cropping it. The majority of these are cropping the blouse because I have a short torso and I prefer the look of a cropped item on myself. So when you do your own alterations, just make sure you're doing them to your liking. That is the whole purpose of making an alteration. I had this thrifted blouse that was a lot longer. You can clearly see in my before shots, and I just wanted a simple crop to it. Now, I was working on this at nighttime. It's not a huge deal, but I thought I got the right color thread. And unfortunately, because it's a double-sided top, I'll go ahead and flip it for you. On the pattern side, you can't really tell the difference, of course, because it's such a busy pattern. But when it's on the red side, you can really see how much lighter the hem stitches are. And because it was a reversible shirt, I had this idea that it was going to be a lot more difficult, but it was actually not so much of a challenge, which was really nice. And what was really cool about the reversibleness of this shirt is it had buttons on both sides. And to be very honest, I still need to remove the buttons. And here's the reason why. Unfortunately, the buttons are right behind each other, so you end up having basically like a wall to try to bend the fabric, and so it doesn't give. And it's a little bit of a struggle, especially since these are also leaf-shaped buttons. They're super cute, but I am proud of this one. The only downfall negative that I'd say is I picked the wrong red thread. Some advice that I would give is definitely select your thread colors and color matching during the daytime in natural light specifically, because that's when you're most likely going to be wearing certain items. Like if this was an evening piece, I would probably not be so annoyed about it, but this is something I think is more casual and I would wear throughout the day. The next top that I altered was a black long sleeve. It was very, very long. It was supposed to be that kind of fit, but again, short torso, so I wanted to crop it. It is slightly longer on one of the sides, so when folding the hem, I could have done a lot better by paying attention to how I was folding and seeing if the front would match up. Like in this section here, you can kind of see it overlaps, and we don't usually want that when making alterations. I'm not a professional, and I am okay with making these hiccups on myself, my clothing items. It is very stressful when you end up altering for someone else because you want to make it as perfect and kind of factory made, and we're human here, so it's not always the case. But I am very proud of the alteration on this one. The only downfall, unfortunately, is on the sleeve. These have specialty buttons on them, and it became a little difficult because when I first tried it on, the button, like shank of it broke, I think just from being old. The current one that's on here isn't in such a fragile condition, but now I have no button on my right sleeve, and again, being slightly picky, you want some uniformity in your clothing, and so now I almost feel like I have to change all the buttons because I won't be able to find these vintage buttons anywhere else. The other option though as well is just stitching the sleeve closed so you wouldn't be able to take it apart, which would be okay. I wouldn't have to change all the buttons then, but that just means someone could notice that the right sleeve doesn't have a button. Now, my last alteration became a much bigger project because it was more of an oversized fit, and I was actually very excited to end up making it to my size. And in the process, I decided to kind of modify the sleeves. I took the collar off and I actually added a lining on the inside of it just to be able to have kind of a cleaner finish. Something that I would like to practice in making my own garments, so I kind of took the liberty in using this as kind of my trial to see how well I could modify but also build from scratch. When it came to the very last step of doing this, it was the buttons of the shirt, and I've had a love-hate relationship with making buttonholes. I've had a few times where I make the buttonhole, and when I'm cutting the hole, it rips it through, and so then I have to like scrap that piece of clothing. I made a reel about making the buttonholes. Making the first one was very simple, came out very clean, no problems. The second buttonhole started to give me issues. The stitching, I had to like restart doing it. And then the third one was like a disaster. And I was able to remove the stitches because it didn't go too far. My bobbin thread was, I don't know what I was doing. I even turned my sewing machine off and on to have it reset its settings, and then I readjusted my length and width and everything to what I needed it to be, specifically for making this garment. And when it came to my last buttonhole, it was a complete disaster. I thought I was going well until I got to the very top where it's gonna like transfer to the other side of the buttonhole stitch. And the bottom was completely just bunched up. It was like a bird's nest really in the back of it. And I swear to goodness, I cried. My tiny violin. If this has ever happened to you, please comment below, because it is one of the worst feelings, especially when you're just like 95% done with constructing your garment and you're like so excited to be able to wear something that you've just made and redesigned. And still to this day I am attempting to take the stitches out, and because of this I just needed some downtime away from making any more alterations. I had a few more garments that I wanted to work on, and it's best to say when you are in a stressful moment, just step away, and I definitely did that. During my moment of reflecting, I pondered on the art behind creation. Like, when did creating become so overly demanding? Are we that hungry to be exposed, or are we genuine in wanting to connect with others? I further wonder what happened to doing things in time and allowing for our creations to progress naturally, because it seems these days there are constant deadlines to be met. I get lost in thoughts like these all the time, and if you ponder them long enough, life will send answers. Mine was in the form of quotes on Instagram by the author Vex King. I will link the post below should you wish to read it in full, but the parts of each quote that stood out to me during this moment of pondering were, "You are not a machine." Life isn't meant to be a cycle of stress and survival. You are here to live and not just to hustle. Life is not a to-do list. The clock may be ticking, but your presence is timeless. We've been conditioned to believe that constant productivity equals worth, but humans weren't designed for endless output. I truly enjoy getting lost in the creation process of a sewing project, but when you spend a number of hours on that one thing that has still not been completed, it makes you wonder, of all the products other creators share, have they fully enjoyed the process? Have they lived through every smooth moment and turbulent moment it took to create this tangible piece? We have made it normal to produce massive quantities of art and clothing because of the daunting idea that you will not be successful if you are not keeping up with this idea of endless output. As a community, we have to decide to slow it down a little. Just as the quotes remind me, I want to share and remind you that we aren't machines and that our worth is not based on our number of created products. Remember quality versus quantity. Just for thought's sake, I had to do a little research. I sew, but with each form of art, there is some sense to creating. Take Michelangelo. He was actively creating for 76 years, where he produced 156 elaborate works of art. That is 2 works of art each year. While Van Gogh produced 900 paintings, which the internet claims would work out to a new painting every 36 hours. Now, of course, their way of life was much slower than our current world is, but we don't see anyone comparing these 2 artists because they were their very own type of artist, just as we each should be. Art that is produced will speak for itself and to someone in this world, where then the value is solely then based on the time, effort, and technique endeavored by the artist. Before you even think about the next project, give your current one your complete attention. Live through each step and be present. Just as we enjoy the attention of our friends when we are out, our creative work also deserves this full embodiment from us. Do not miss living through the journey, even if that means surviving, because you will survive, through the dreadful moments that are mistakes, hiccups, and sewing machine troubleshooting. We all go through our very own breakthroughs, and some projects will have more than others. In the end, create at your own pace. And create. Just create something you will be proud of.